That's it. We're on.
Beautiful.
Literally just like that.
Yeah, easy.
I'm sitting here with Asian Street Jesus, as we call him. No, Winston Hong. And we are at his beautiful Ace Academy Jiu Jitsu. Is it Leichhardt, the suburb?
Yes, it is. Yeah, Leichhardt. It's a bit confusing because this is right at the border of like two suburbs.
Yep.
So this is Leichhardt, like on this side of the street, and then the other side is like Petersham.
Okay.
Yeah, but it is Leichhardt. So yes, yeah. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
No,
yeah.
it's good. Yeah, so we're just getting some rolls in before and a little bit of training. But I was, we always, for people that know Winston, they'll typically know you from being at pretty much almost all the comps.
Oh yes, yeah.
Reffing.
Yes, that's
right?
exactly right.
And with your style, it's quite you can sort of tell when Winston's at a comp because you can see you're noticeable, right?
Yeah.
But I was always a little bit curious about you more so as a person, and also now that you've started this venture, it's a good idea to try and catch up and find out a little bit more about you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. And then well, for a lot of competitions, especially when I started refereeing in like 2016.
Yep.
And then at that time, it was predominantly dominated by like Brazilian referees. So I was the only Asian one. So I was like the Asian guy. Yeah. And then now that, before I had short hair, now I have long hair. There's only one Asian referee with long hair. So
yep.
Yeah.
It's become your signature.
Pretty much, yeah. and now like every competition, if I don't do a competition, people message me, say, hey, where are you?
Yeah.
Like, I thought you would be gonna be there. I was gonna say hi to you, and you weren't even there. I was like, man, I'm on holiday, or like, I have something else to do. Like I couldn't be there.
We'll have to start like a bit of a the urban myth that the hair is the source of your power.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Well, lucky I have that power because it was always helping me get through my jiu-jitsu days.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, okay, to sort of bring it all back and help people understand you a little bit more better. So, you actually grew up in Singapore.
Yes, that is correct. Yeah.
And I guess for you, what are some of those memories that you have of growing up in Singapore?
Yeah, well, I thought it was like just a regular childhood because that's the only one I experienced. But now looking back onto it, I think growing up in Singapore, we were very focused on like studying. Like all we did was like study. I enjoyed it. I think I had a good childhood. But then looking back, I wish I had a little bit more freedom to explore like what I like to do and everything like that. Whereas like kids here in Australia, they have a lot of freedom to explore. The parents put them in like different sports. I teach kids over here. They're like, oh, try jiu-jitsu. And then they can't do jiu-jitsu 3 times a week because they have like swimming and dancing and acting and like 4 or 5 different things.
So what was it like for you in terms of education in Singapore? Like when you think back on like say the primary school system, right?
Yeah, it's primary school up till university, up to like your whole like formal education. I think a lot of it at the time, I don't know about now. I think it's a little bit better nowadays. But when I was growing up, it was like all or nothing.
Yep.
Yeah, you have to study. You put all your eggs into the study basket, and then that's it.
So I think from memory, right? Like so in Singapore, it's like you go up to and instead of calling it years 7, 8, 9, 10, it's like form 4, 5, 6 or whatever.
Yes, yeah.
And then you only go to year 10 unless you either qualify to get into a junior college, so JC as they call it, which is like your years 11 and 12.
Yes, that's correct.
And then or you go to like a TAFE style, which is the polytechnic system, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so for myself, like I actually. At year 10 you take an exam, so they call it the O levels. Yeah, they call it the O levels. Yeah, it's and then from there you decide what you want to do. Yeah, I actually could qualify for like junior college, but I kind of didn't want to do that because I don't know. I think I like to go against the grain. That's why I'm here. Yeah, I like to go against the grain. I'm the younger sibling.
Okay.
So my brother, he was the shining star. He was the example. He was the one who went to junior college. He went to a local university. Now he has kids.
Yep.
So he's like, everything my parents want a child to be.
Yeah.
Like Asian parent anyway. And then I will be the rebel. Yeah. I will be the one who like try to push against the grain. So my marks were good enough to go into junior college, but I didn't want it because I wanted something different.
Yep.
Yeah. I guess maybe for me as well, I wanted something different from my brother. Maybe that's it.
Yep.
Like a little bit competitive. So I went to like technical college, like the polytechnic.
Yep.
Yeah, and then from there I studied electrical engineering.
Yep.
For no reason at all. The only reason I studied electrical because my mom told me like, hey, you should go into engineering because you make good money, it's a stable job. That's pretty much it.
That's the Asian
The Asian mom way.
yeah like,
Asian parents way.
yeah. Well, I think for a lot of Asian parents, and I've spoken about this before. It's like, you know, and I guess, you know, relative to my parents coming to a new country, right? Like they work so hard to try and like establish themselves in this new country. A lot of the time that migrant mentality is like, yeah, we just want you to have a stable life.
Yeah.
Right.
And then it's for good reason, right? Because, you know, they just want the best for you.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, kind of makes sense. So, you know, from there I studied engineering, and then the idea of studying overseas, I've always liked the idea of studying overseas. Maybe because like I was a little bit tired of how life was in Singapore. It was very stressful, very high pace. It's like study, study, study. You know, once you get to like 25, close to 30, you think of getting a girlfriend and getting married and settling down.
Yep.
Like, I mean, it's not like it's a bad life or anything, but I thought like it wasn't what I wanted. Yeah, and then I guess a lot of the times I didn't feel like I had the freedom to, you know, understand who I was, because all I did, like basically I was just studying the whole time. So to give you a bit of context, you know, there will be, you know, 5 days a week of school, like during my high school days. Yeah, and then for 4 of those days I would have extra tuition.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'll be like already Monday to Friday, heaps of homework in Asian style, and getting extra classes on top of that for like no reason at all, because my grades were actually all right.
So so your parents were sending you to extra classes, or was that through school?
No, extra classes. My parents were like paying extra for me to study more, because they really wanted to get my grades high. But the grades were already all right. there was just, I think it's just the competitive mindset. They're like, yeah, you just got to get your grades good, and then you'll be set for life.
And also, like, I think, you know, there'd be other parents that are doing that.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, all my neighbors' kids, all my classmates.
So you feel like there's this pressure. Is my kid missing out on something? Okay, I'm going to send him to tuition too.
Yeah. It's now, you know, obviously I'm not a parent, but like now, like, you know, as I'm a little bit older, like I do understand where they're coming from. Yeah, but then, you know, there's still that part of me that wishes, like, you know, I wish I had more time to, you know, explore my own interests. Yeah, but maybe it's for the better, because whenever I had time back then, I was just playing video games. So maybe my parents did the right thing and just like, go study. Yeah.
What kind of video games?
Yeah, all sorts. I was playing a lot of like Counter-Strike.
Yep.
Yeah, I was like, you know, for a period of time, I was like into like MMO.
Yep.
Yeah, like, I don't know, I was playing like Maple Story and all that kind of things. Yeah, all the standard ones. Yeah. I was playing a lot of Dota.
Yep.
Yeah.
So would you go to like the PC rooms to play?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. 100%. Like talk smack to my friends and like, you know, those like little like what do you call it? The LAN
parties.
LAN parties. Yeah, it was the best times, man. yeah, back in the day. But then yeah, so you know, coming back to the point. So I was studying electrical engineering, and then on my final year, actually, I did we had to do like a little project.
Yeah.
So my project was on renewable energy. So we did like solar panels, blah blah blah, whatever. And then I was like, oh, I actually really enjoy this. So I looked a little bit more into it, and then in Australia, in Sydney, at that time, UNSW was one of the only universities that was offering an undergrad degree for renewable energy. Yeah, so I was like, oh, maybe, you know, I could look more into this, because my parents actually, they wanted to send my brother overseas.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then because it is quite expensive, I understand that. So if he went overseas, I wouldn't be able to.
Yep. So
because he chose not to go overseas. I don't know why. I mean, I guess he wasn't as maybe he didn't want that kind of like the lifestyle where I did. But anyway, so luckily, because he didn't go overseas, I was able to have that opportunity. Yeah, because, you know, it's expensive. My parents are like, you know, they're not super rich or everything. All they did for their whole life was like work for the government.
Yep.
So they have a good salary, good, you know, good high middle class, but then, you know, they couldn't afford both kids going overseas.
Yep.
So I was the lucky one who went overseas. Yeah, and then I kind of knew in the back of my mind, like once I went overseas, like it might be an opportunity, like I wouldn't come back to Singapore. Yeah, so that was kind of the plan. I think my mom knew it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think she said to me, like, further down the line, she's like, yeah, I kind of knew, like, once you went overseas, you might not come back.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
And so for her, was that because she was reading into your personality, or she was just thinking that, you know, that high pressure sort of, you know, or fast paced life in Singapore was like, it didn't, you know, perhaps when you go somewhere else and it's a little bit more relaxed, that would be more attractive. Like, what was it about you that specifically that your mum had that feeling about?
I don't know, man. Moms just know shit, right? Yeah, but I think it's a bit of both.
Yeah,
a bit of both. Yeah, I think you know, when I was over there, I was studying. I was every now and then I would like, call her, like, just tell her how everything is. And I would like absolutely love it. I think also was part of it. They kind of knew that I wanted my own freedom because, I didn't like to be, confined in the box. Yeah, I was a bit more rebellious. Yeah, so actually my brother was a little bit more jealous of me because I had a lot more freedom than he did. Yeah.
So was that because you pushed back a lot earlier?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. That's I think I never liked, being put in the box. I pushed back. Even when they were sending me to like tuition like 4 or 5 times a week, like I would, try to fake that I'm sick or something. Like try not to,
my brother.
yeah, try not to like, oh man, I'm not feeling well. It's like, oh, maybe I don't want to go.
That was that's how I used to get out of language school.
Yeah,
Chinese school.
Yeah.
On the weekend, it'll be like, I used to go to this one that was on like, I think it was on a Sunday afternoon in Stanmore.
Oh my god, yeah. Oh, just around here.
Yeah, and like I would just, it's like in the afternoon, but I'm like, I'm in bed. Oh, I'm sick.
Like,
I don't want to go.
Like, oh, mom, I'm not feeling well.
Yeah. So then
like,
eventually they changed to a different one. I was like doing like, I don't know. I can't remember. It might have been Saturday morning or Sunday morning. I can't remember what time it was. But then there clearly came a point where like my parents must have like not given up, but like there was a time when I actually got left at Chinese school. Like when I say I shit you not, like I was left there. So I lived in Baulkham Hills, and and the Chinese language class was at James Roos Agricultural High. It was on the weekend, and like I was there, and then I was waiting for my mum to pick me up. I waited that long that I ended up deciding I'll just walk home.
Oh my god!
And it was like a 2-3 hour walk home, and I
what?
got
But how do you know the way home?
I would have been in like high school at that point in time.
Yeah, right.
And I literally just walked home, and then like I got home, and I obviously had the shits with my mum.
Yeah.
Because like you didn't fucking come pick me up. Like,
yeah.
She's
what
there,
did she say?
She's there cooking in the kitchen. She's like, oh yeah, I'm sorry. And I'm like,
she didn't even say anything.
No, she was sorry.
Yeah.
Because she probably went there after I'd left. Like I don't know at some point like. But I waited probably for like 2 hours before I got the shits.
Yeah.
Like I was the only one sitting out the front by myself.
That is insane.
And there's only so much you can do back in those days with no mobile phone.
Yeah.
I didn't have a Game Boy or anything like that.
Yeah.
And so I just walked. Like I literally walked from Carlingford all the way to Baulkham Hills.
That is insane, hey.
Yeah. And I remember, like, I was fuming when I was doing it. And it was when I was doing it, it was like the thing what was fueling me to keep going and actually make it all the way home was just how angry I was that I'd been forgotten about.
Oh my god! So they were like fully like ready to like leave you there.
Oh, I'm sure she might have, like, she probably went there after at some point, but I would have already been walking home.
Yeah.
And so, like, she would have gone to the school and then she probably wouldn't have found me. I don't know. She probably just came home and then started cooking. And I honestly don't know what exactly happened, but all I remember was that I got home and it wasn't a big deal. Like, it was just like, I was pissed, but then it was just like, she forgot.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Interesting. Good old days, huh? Like back in the day. Now it's like completely different. Like oh my god, like helicopter parents.
Yeah.
Oh Jesus.
You can't. Yeah. It's funny. The other day, my kids have started jiu-jitsu. The older two, and then she was like, "Why aren't you coaching them?" And I'm like, "No, let the coaches coach. Like I'm just fucking here to support them and watch them. Like let them get coached by the coaches. Like." I can debrief with them at home. Like I don't need to go and like yell out during the class unless they don't know what they're doing. In which case I might I might say, hey, I'll actually call the coach over. And I'll I don't think they know what they're doing.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, I guess you're just like helping the coach like get attention to your kids.
Yeah,
right. You're not like coaching over the coach.
No,
but you know what? It's funny because parents who do jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Most of them they understand like not to overstep the boundary. Yeah. But it's those parents who don't do jiu-jitsu. Yeah. They start like. Well, I have a few. They start like coaching their kids. So I'll be teaching them, I don't know, whatever, like a kimura or something. Yeah. And then I will be, there's a bunch of different kids. I will be like, in one corner coaching another group of kids. And they will be trying to coach their kids how to go through a kimura. Yeah. Yeah. And then I think it creates like a bad habit for the kids. Yeah. Because the kids, they feel like they don't have to listen to the coach because their parents will back them up anyway. Yeah. Yeah. So I always try to say, hey, I don't tell the parents off, but I tell the kids off, like, hey,
focus.
Yeah, focus. You're like your mom's not doing jiu-jitsu, you're doing jiu-jitsu. Yeah.
Like I think it's a tough one, right? Because I think you always want to do the best for your kids, but at the same time, I think as a parent, you want to also give your kids the opportunity for them to explore themselves. And if you're always like coaching them, then it's like they don't have that opportunity to find who they are in this environment, right?
It is. Yeah. I think it is like really helpful for them to like be in a foreign environment and they find their own way. Yeah. 100%. I think like, you know, when parents get too involved, it creates a bit of a emotional scarring, kind of like me. That's why that's why I left. I was like, you know what? I have enough of this. No, that's not true, Mom. But
so
they did well.
Like, I guess, were your parents, would you say, and overbearing is not the right word, but were your parents very, would they dictate a lot of what they wanted out of you? Like,
pretty much. Like a lot of major life choices. Like they've never asked me about my opinion. They've just made the choice for me.
Yeah.
So, well, for example, in Singapore, when I was choosing like my high school, so after primary school, you can kind of choose your high school.
Yep.
You choose like, you know, a bunch of local high school, which one you want to go to.
Yep.
My mom just chose one for me. She's like, oh, you just go to this one. This one's good. Yeah. And it's even stuff like, even for like, you know, what I wanted to study in Polytechnic, you know, like, yeah, I'll just study engineering because I have no idea. I was like, I don't know, 16. I was like, I had no idea what I want to study. I was like, oh, I'll study this. That sounds cool. She's like, nah, study engineering. You're good at math. You're good at science. Do engineering. And I was like, okay.
But I think, you know, most kids at that age, you really don't know what you want to do.
That is true. That is true. Yeah. That is true. Like in that sense, like, you know, they did kind of the right thing. Well, you know, it led me here, so I guess it is the right thing.
It gives you a foundation, right? I think that's the underrated thing of like going on and pursuing like further education. Like I think I had a teacher, his name was Mr. O'Brien. He was actually like a technical teacher, like engineering. He used to do the woodworking classes, metalworking, and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. And you know, one of the things that he said to us in our engineering class, he was like, like what do you think you know, you get when you go to university? And everybody's like, oh, you get a degree, you know? And it's like, no. What you actually get taught in university is how to learn for yourself.
100%,
right?
yeah.
And if you go into it with that mindset, well, then, you know, pursuing a higher education is valuable, right? You know, I guess the difference is nowadays you don't necessarily have to go to university to learn for yourself. When there's like instructionals, there's YouTube, there's like so many different ways to learn things. Like, you know, if you want to learn how to like service your car, you can go and literally look up on YouTube, you know, how to change oil in XYZ car, and there's probably an instructional out there.
Oh, 100%, yeah. Yeah, but you know what's funny? Because a lot of people ask me this question. So, you know, I studied, anyway, going back, like rewinding a little bit. So after my engineering degree in a diploma in Singapore, right, I came to Australia to study. Yeah. So I studied in UNSW. I've graduated. But then I found Jiu-Jitsu like halfway through. Yeah. And in my final year, I found Jiu-Jitsu. I was like, oh my gosh, this is the best thing ever. I would start to plan all my classes around all my Jiu-Jitsu classes. So I would come like 3-4 times a week, like 5-6 times a week. I would do like every single class. Yep. And then I finished my degree. I actually did work in engineering for a little bit. So I was like, oh, you know what? It's the right thing to do, you know, as an Asian child. You know, you do my parents proud, you know, go to engineering. And I had a good job. Yep. And I was on probation for like 8 months. Yep. And then at the end of probation, like I did all my job, you know, I was in the office, everything. I absolutely hated it. I hated every single day. I was in the office. I had to be there at like 8:30. And then I had an agreement with my boss, with my manager. Like at 5 p.m., I have to leave the office because at that time, the office was in North Sydney. And I was training in Bondi Junction. And the training would start at 6. I was like, 5 p.m., I'm out the door. That was the deal. That was the deal. Yeah. Like everybody knew it. Yeah, but I would come early. I would come on weekends. I don't care. As long as 5 p.m. out the door, I can go train. That's it. And then every day, every single day, all I wanted to do was like hit that 5 p.m. mark and go train. Yeah. Anyway, so I did that for a little bit. And then at the end of my probation, like, oh, we would like to get you on board, you know, to do engineering. Like, you know, we want to hire you, blah, blah, blah. You know, this is the pay package, everything. And then I looked at them. I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. And they were like shocked because, you know, the job I had was a lot of... It was kind of a dream job because it was directly related to what I was studying. Yeah. So
it was in renewables?
It was in renewable energy. I was like planning like solar projects, you know, like, you know, the costs, you know, the ROI, whatever. Yeah. But then I just didn't want to do it because I just hated every second of it. I was like looking at 2 screens, like numbers all day. It was just draining. Yeah. And then I just quit my job and then started in Jiu-Jitsu. So I started, you know, competing a lot, started teaching a lot. And then when I was like doing full-time Jiu-Jitsu, like people would ask me, hey, do you think your degree was a waste? And then, you know, coming back to your point, I would say like, no, absolutely not. Because, you know, although what I studied was engineering, you know, you learn how to work together with different people. You learn how to like work together like as a team. I think that's like really valuable. And then learning how to learn as well. Like I learn like how I learn my learning style a lot from university.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's invaluable. Like you can't like replace that.
Yeah. I think, it's like, I always say there's no wasted experiences, only wasted opportunities.
100%, yeah, 100%.
You know, the experience itself is only a waste if you waste the opportunity to use that, right? Like it's translation of skills. And I think, you know, people would often say, you know, and you would experience this as a coach as well, right? Like there'd be people that may not be able to pick up certain skills as quickly as others, right? And then it's like they look at you as a coach and then they go, oh, well, but that's you. You know, you're able to do this because you're you. I'm me. I'm not able to do that.
Yes.
But what they fail to understand is that there is a process that you go through to learn how you learn. And once you can see that, like, and it's sort of almost like this, the Miyamoto Musashi Book of Five Rings quote, you know, when you see the way in one thing, you see it in everything.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Right?
Exactly it.
You know, when you go deep on something, then you realize that, okay, I can actually learn about anything that I choose to learn about. You just need the motivation. And then you also then need to have that ability to then take a step back and look at, okay, what are the principles that may be common that apply in these different scenarios, right? Like, and I think that's a huge thing that a lot of people probably don't necessarily relate those things. Like, you know, they, like, as an example, you're talking about like this engineering job where you're looking at numbers and things like that. Like there's a structure and a process to how you would view those numbers. You know, like if you're going to do a ROI report to calculate, you know, whether a project is viable, it's no different to jiu-jitsu and then calculating whether this move is actually going to get you into a better position or not.
100%, right? Exactly right. Yeah, that's you know, you put it really well. Yeah, so I think engineering has really helped me like think systematically. I think that has like come up in a lot of like, you know, how jiu-jitsu is formulated nowadays. Yeah, so like you can't have like a random like throw shit at the wall kind of approach. Everything has to be like step by step, and then everything has to be like there's a reason why, you know, how and what happens. Yeah, so actually it's funny because when John Danaher started getting popular, when I started watching his instructionals, I was like, wow, this guy thinks like me. Like everything's like systematic, and there's a reason for everything. Yeah, well, he doesn't have an engineering background, but then like, you know, the way he thinks of things is like systematic. Yeah, and then I think that really translated really well to jiu-jitsu, and in funny way, like in business as well. Yeah, it does really translate to like every part of your life. Yeah.
So, I'm sort of curious, you know, when you say no to this job, did your parents ever ask you, oh, you know, what are you doing? And
well, it's okay. They won't watch this.
Okay.
But then for many years, yeah, I was kind of, I think I was not ashamed, but I was a little bit afraid to tell them the truth. Yeah. So when I quit the job, I didn't actually tell them I quit the engineering job until like a lot later.
Yeah.
So what's funny that happened, like the engineering firm, I thought it was solid. So like engineering firm, it used to be listed under ASX, everything. It was a listed company. They were like established. They've been in business for a long time. All of a sudden, like, you know, because I'm still in contact with like my old colleagues and managers and everything. So the company went under.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, within a span of like 8 months after I left, the company went under.
Jeez.
So the story I told luckily it did. So the story I told my parents was, oh, the company went under. And then because I had no job, and then I was doing this jiu-jitsu thing, which I really like, I just went into jiu-jitsu. But the truth was, I just hated it. I left. But every day I tell myself, like, whenever it comes up, I was like, you know what? Luckily, I took the initiative to quit. Yeah. Because if I stayed in the job, I would have been fired anyway. Yeah. Because the company's gone. It's liquidated.
That's right.
Yeah. I to this day, like, nobody knows. Like, nobody really told me like what happened. Yeah. Yeah. Because I guess only higher management knows. And
I guess, you know, like your mates that were still working in that company, like, did they actually get paid out all their stuff? Or
I think they did. Yeah. Okay. They did get paid out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why I told my parents, hey, I got paid out. Well, I have no job. I mean, I'm doing this jiu-jitsu thing. I'm teaching the kids there. Like, you know, I'm making like 300 a week. Like, it'll be all right.
And were your parents ever like, you know, Winston, when are you coming home?
Yeah, all the time. Yeah, my dad was like, hey, so when are you done with this like jiu-jitsu thing? Yeah, he's like, "Oh, when are you gonna get a real job? When are you gonna go back to engineering?" I was like, I mean, I'm in too deep now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So then,
yeah.
you know, what have you told them that you've started this place or?
Yes, yeah. Oh,
There was a
yes,
hesitation there.
yes and no, yes and no. Well, I mean, I understand where they're coming from because my parents, they're very conservative. Yeah, and then they grew up in that like post war era. They yeah. Well, my grandparents would have been like, no, not really baby boomers, but like a little bit before that. They went through the war and everything. My grandparents, so they grew up in that like post World War II era in Singapore, where they're like, oh, you just got to get a job and like raise a family and everything. So they're very risk averse, and they both worked in like under the government because they say, oh, it's a good solid income, you never get fired, you have good benefits and everything, which is true. It's all true. And then they're kind of risk averse, so they're kind of the people who say like, if you have extra money, just put it into like a very safe investment. Just get a good old savings account, that 4-5% interest rates, and that's good because that's safe. Yeah. So that kind of people. Yeah. So I will have to break it to them properly at some point that I open my own gym.
Yep.
Yeah. And then
so they just think you're still teaching.
yeah, they know I've like opened up a gym, but they didn't know like this is all my own venture. Yeah. They if I didn't tell them like it was my own venture, but I think they would freak out. Yeah, they think like I have some like financial backing and I'm safe and everything, but it's not. It's not. It's just on me. Yeah. Just gotta take the plunge, and then I think, and also the point where I waited to tell them was I wanted the gym to be a little bit more successful, so I could tell them that, hey, look, I took this risk, but the risk was worth it. Like I'm still able to like feed myself. I can, hopefully start employing people, and then the gym is like running itself, and then it's easier to break it to them rather than like in the start, like, all right, I'm opening a business. That's it. I have no experience.
It's not helpful when like, or you get, it's not to say negativity, but it's like the way that their concern is conveyed is actually through negativity. It's like
It's like that's just how they're brought up, and like that's how I understand. I understand like that's how they would feel as well. So I think it would be easier to break it to them, say, hey, look at all these photos, all these kids, all these like people coming and training with me. It is like a viable option rather than like, I open up the gym and then like there's no people. I have like 10 members and like I can't pay the rent kind of thing. Yeah, I think it would be a lot easier if I break it to them that way rather than like, I just opened a gym. Yeah. That's one good thing for, if you move away from home. I think it's a little bit better. You have a bit of space between, like you got
a
parents,
buffer.
Yeah. I think it's healthy for like both sides because it can be a little bit overbearing, especially like Asian parents.
Yeah,
but I know that's a norm, right? It's a norm of like you're staying at home until you get married, pretty much. Yeah, unless you're moving for work or something. But I don't know. I think it's people still, a lot of Asian, especially like my friends in Singapore, if they don't get married, they still live with their parents. Yeah, it's just culturally that's what's accepted. So, yeah.
Yeah, I resonate with that because I'd probably going to be the same way with my kids. You can't move out until you're getting married or something like that.
It's just not financially. It's not a good option because I mean it's just stupid, right? Because you're paying rent somewhere else where you can just stay at home for free.
Yeah,
kind of.
And especially in Sydney at the moment.
It's like, man,
everything's expensive, right?
Tell me about it. Yeah.
So then, when it came to deciding, location and like the setup and logos, all this sort of stuff, like what was your sort of process like? I guess I'm a little bit curious. So you've been open for what, 9 months?
About 9 months, yeah. So I opened officially last year in October. Like last year, start of October, I opened like I did my grand opening. Yeah, so that was when I exactly started.
Yep. And then like in terms of planning though, like how long were you sort of planning this before you pulled the trigger, or did you just pull the trigger pretty quickly?
It was in the works for a while. Like to be honest, I've been planning to open my own gym back around like 2019. Okay. So I was still a brown belt.
Yep.
Yeah, I was still teaching like jiu-jitsu like full time at my old gym in Garage Jiu-Jitsu in Bondi Junction. And then I was just, it came to a point where I thought about like, before I used to compete a lot. I was trying to be a jiu-jitsu athlete. That didn't quite work out. It's tough. So I was looking at my options. So I was teaching jiu-jitsu. I was very comfortable. I was making a decent salary. But I was thinking to myself, like, look, in 5 years, in 10 years, what am I going to do? Am I going to be still like, I don't know, 1,000 a week, 1,200 a week, like doing this for the rest of my life? Like how much can my body hold? I was comfortable. I was making good money, but, eventually I do want to settle down. You know, I do want to like have my own little thing. I would do want to have like my own slice of the pie. You know, I can't be an employee forever. That was my thought process. So I was already back then like looking to have my own space. Yeah. So I was like already back then, you know, like looking like, hey, maybe that's an idea. So all the way back in 2019, you know, I was already looking for like, hey, maybe this is a good spot to open a gym. Just throwing it out there. It was nothing serious. So it got really, really serious. Maybe post COVID, you know, COVID hit, and they're like, oh well, it's nice. You can't do anything, right? There's, you know, the whole world came to a stop for like a few years, and then post COVID, I was like, you know what? You know, things were going well. I was back teaching, you know, back on the mats. I was, you know, earning decent salary. But then it wasn't enough. That's why I ref so much. Yeah. It's basically why you see me every competition, because I need to
supplement.
Yeah, I need to supplement the income. If I want to go like away or something, I was like, oh well, you know, George is gonna pay me more money. Anyway, yeah.
Shout out to George.
Yeah, shout out to George. Right, he pays my bills. This gym funded by George. Half of it.
We'll have to get Matt and the guys out to come do a prefix here.
Exactly it. So yeah. That was how it came from. And then maybe about a year before I opened my gym, so in early 2022 or like mid 2022, I started like really sitting down and planning. Yeah, so I planned, you know, I started looking online, you know, what different spaces look like and kind of how much they cost. Yeah, I started doing inspections. Like, well, shout out to like those like real estate agents. I had no intention of renting the place, but they still took the time out of the day thinking I would. Yeah. But I was just like having a look to see what they have in the market. Yeah. Yeah, and then that's when it started to get really serious. And then I think I opened my gym in October. So in January, I started, you know, New Year's. You know, I had a bit of time over the holiday period, and the gym was closed. It was a bit quiet. So I like really sat down. I started like, you know, making a business plan, you know, writing, you know, budgeting. It's like, this is how much money I have, how much everything would cost, you know, kind of how much I want things to cost. So I started like making a logo, you know, planning a website, you know, looking for an area I want to be in. Yeah, so that's how I came to where I am in Leichhardt. Okay. Because I felt at that point in time, I two things I want to accomplish, like when I opened the gym. So I wanted to be far away from my old gym. So be no dramas, you know, because it's just complicated. If you open like, you know, 10 minutes away, like you know, you start to steal students and stuff, like you start to get weird. I still want to be on good terms with like, you know, people who have done so much for me. And then the second thing was like, I want to try to find a gap in the market. Yeah, it's kind of tricky now because there's so much jiu-jitsu and so much MMA like popping up everywhere. So I found like this location in Leichhardt. It's kind of in the middle of two gyms. Yeah, so there's one gym down the road and one gym up the road, and they're pretty established. They've been there for a while. But then gym like further down the road, which is a little bit closer to me, it's an MMA gym. Yeah, so I thought that like, you know, that wouldn't be too much of a competitor to what I was doing. Yeah. So I thought, you know, Leichhardt was a bit of a gap in the market. And then, I found this space, and I was like, oh, it's a good space, you know, good exposure. Yeah. And I opened up.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, and then pretty fast execution.
Yeah. But it was in the planning for a while. So, you know, in January, I started planning like, you know, the website, the logo and everything. And it all like really came together about in June. Yep. Yeah. So in June, like in April, June, I started to get really serious. So in April, I was like looking at places to actually like commercially rent. Yeah, and I think like I looked at this place like around like May, June around, and then I signed it and then got everything done. Yeah, it was quite an experience because I've never done any of this before. Like it was just like curve. Yeah, it was just like pretty much like going in blind. Yeah, I thought like, you know, the best way to do it is just to go in blind. Yeah, you know, you can, you know, I have like, you know, my old the old owner of the gym, like in garage, you know, she was helping me out. She was telling me like, oh, you could get this, you know, things to look out for. But ultimately, like, you know, you never know unless you're really in it. Yeah, like how much work it actually takes.
Skin in the game.
It is pretty much. Yeah, I always tell people, you know, like it's like rolling in jiu-jitsu, and you know, you never know really. Let's say competing in jiu-jitsu, you never know how it is to compete until you do it. Yeah. There's no other way.
Well, it's always like when you're rolling, and when you have those days where it's like your body just doesn't move when you want it to move. It's like, I can see this move, but you don't do it. You don't execute. Yeah. So it's a non-event. Yes. Because you never, like, it was all it was is it just existed in your mind. I think
just a thought. Yeah.
Yeah. The way that society is kind of geared nowadays is like, it is definitely geared towards this propensity towards action. You have to do things. Because at the end of the day, at least when you've tried to do something, right, then you come to a pathway. It's like that typical AB, style. It's like, okay, if I'm going to pull guard, okay, what's my game? I pull guard and then I might play De La Riva as an example. If De La Riva doesn't work, then I'm going to reverse De La Riva.
Yes.
So you turn everything into a binary choice. Whereas, when it's like you don't start to execute at all, it's like, oh, it could be this, could be that. And you spend all your time going around in this circle and doing your own head in, especially at nighttime when you're lying there, eyes wide open, thinking about the million of things that it could be, but then nothing is actually in existence. It's only in existence in your own mind.
100%. Yeah. Right? Yeah. You don't want to get to that point where you're like only think about it, but never executing.
Yeah.
So, and then I've thought about it long enough. Like since 2019, I've been thinking about opening my own gym.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, if I don't open now, there's like no better timing to do it. I just got to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then like I was thinking even to myself, I was like, you know what? I'll just give this a fair shot. If I lose everything, I'll just go back to like being an instructor.
Yeah.
Like, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Like it's a good lifestyle. It's okay. It gets me by, but it's like not really what I want. Yeah. So I'll give this a fair shot. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I'll just find something else. I'm sure it'll be, hopefully it'll be all right. Yeah. But hopefully it doesn't get to that point. But yeah.
So when it came to like designing the logos, did you do all that yourself?
I did everything myself. Yeah. So
did you have to teach yourself how to do all this stuff, or?
Lucky for us, like, we exist in a world where like everything is very automated.
Yep.
So everything was like done for me. So I went online. I was like, how to make a logo, and then there's like automatic like logo creators.
Yeah.
And then I just like tinkered around a little bit. I had an idea what I wanted.
Yep.
I tinkered around. I know I wanted something like, modern, sleek, easy to remember. And I wanted, so I was like, when I was like thinking of the names of my gym, I was, playing with a few names. And then I wanted my gym name to be in English. I didn't want to name it after myself. Because, back in the day, jiu-jitsu people name it after themselves. Like, blah, 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 gym, this black belt instructor's name, gym, jiu-jitsu gym. I was like, I don't want any of that. Because, we're in Sydney, we're in Australia, everybody speaks English. Yeah. And it's better for SEO as well.
Yep.
Rather than somebody's name. It's like, English words, easy to search, easy to remember. Yeah, so I just played around with a few ideas. I just came up with Ace Academy Jiu-Jitsu because it's a alliteration, so AAJJ. Easy to remember. Yeah, like Ace Academy Jiu-Jitsu.
Yep.
I think it's easy to remember. It's catchy.
Yep.
I want something simple. So I tinkered around with like the logo, and then it works. I liked it, and then I bought it. I was like, you know what? Now I got to go through with it.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think that was, once I had the logo, once I had the name, I was like, you know what? It's starting. I've already paid for it. I have to go through with it.
You're gonna make something of it.
Yeah, gotta make something of it. It's the Asian in me, can't waste the money. It's paid for. Like, I got to use it.
The word in Hokkien is kiasu.
Oh yes, yeah.
Afraid to lose. You done really well to actually. You don't have the typical Singaporean accent. Like,
yes.
You got like a hybrid where you've dropped all the la, lo, and le.
Yeah.
But there's that little bit of Singaporean still there. But then it's like more normal English, I should say, or Australian style English.
Yeah. I think like, well, it's funny you say that because when I moved to Australia, like I made it a point, like, nobody will understand my Singlish. So I had to make it a point. I forced myself to drop all of it. Like I still sound Singaporean, like definitely.
Yeah.
Like whenever like somebody, who's Malaysian or Singaporean background, once I start speaking, they're like, where are you from?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what, like for me, I was trying to work out because I didn't actually know Winston was from Singapore. And then, when I asked you before, I was like, oh, okay. it kind of clicked, but then it's like it kind of doesn't because you don't have the lalo layers.
Yeah. And I've been here for like 12, 13 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I had to like, I didn't like change my accent.
Yeah.
I think it just like naturally happened over time. I just like dropped a lot of the Singlish.
Yeah.
Like every now and then it will come up, and my friends would give me so much shit for it.
Really?
Yeah. Oh my god. So one of my best friends, she's my personal trainer.
Yeah.
She used to give me so much shit for saying tree.
True.
So 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
But then because the way I was brought up, like in Singlish is very lazy.
Yeah.
So I said 1, 2, 3, like the tree, like with the leaves.
Yep.
So she used to give me so much shit for it.
Okay.
Yeah, and another thing she would give me a lot of shit was instead of saying this morning, which I know now, I'm really conscious of it. So people say, oh, this morning, like, I woke up, blah, blah, blah. I would say today morning. because that's how we would say it in Mandarin, and that's how we say it in Singapore. Because like people just translate. So I would say like, "Oh, today morning," and she's like, "Haha, today morning." I was like, "Screw
that was
you."
very Singaporean then.
Yeah,
that was really Singaporean.
Yeah, I was like, screw you. I'm gonna change it. Yeah, so I was like, really conscious of like these little things. Yeah. So trying to improve. Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's how, yeah, I got here.
So then, when you were in the throes of like the heavy competitions and like really invested in jiu-jitsu, I guess I'm a little bit curious about when it came to, so that would have been pre-Danaher, obviously.
Oh yeah. So when I quit my job, was between like finishing my university and quitting my job. That's when I got really serious into trying to be an athlete. Yeah, so it was between like 2014, I would say 2014 to 2019.
Yep.
Yeah, my blue belt to like brown belt days, I would compete a lot, and I was very lucky because I was training a lot with Levi Jones, and then he was obviously on the same trajectory.
Yep.
So yeah, so we had a similar goal. We were training together all the time. So it was very lucky to train together with Levi. And then like see how he would approach things. I would learn a lot off of him. Yeah, would like bounce ideas and everything. So yeah, I was trying to be an athlete back in like 2014, and then I realized very, very quickly, number one, I wasn't good enough, and number two, it's gonna be a really, really hard life. I couldn't afford like to go to America to train for like 3 months and everything. I just thought it wasn't a good return of my investment in money. It's expensive. Like to go over there to stay for a month, 2 months. I know like people say it's worth it, but man, it's gonna cost like 4 or 5 grand. I was like, I don't have 4 or 5 grand to drop. I teach kids in jiu-jitsu. I do like a bit of like work on the weekend. I can't live that kind of lifestyle. Yeah. And then I think like personality wise, I prefer like teaching anyway. So that's when I transitioned more into coaching.
Yeah. That's an interesting one because like a lot of people, they think, oh, you got to go to America and train at a well-known team or an established team to get the work in. But like, and I say this, probably more from the MMA universe. Like if you look at like a lot of the people that are now getting into the UFC from Australia, and we've just had a whole bunch of different signings, right? Whether it's from Romel's Lewistro's gym, Romel Lewistro over in Perth, with Quinlan, Cody Haddon, the guys up at Compton's, there's Tom Nolan up there. Obviously Josh Coolabau trains out of Igor's. Rob, training out of Smeaton Grange. Like Volk down at Freestyle. Like all these guys have come from like fairly small teams. When I say small teams, it's like the team is sort of it's built around obviously a close relationship with the coach and the guys getting whatever influences they need for that particular camp brought in. Like they bring people in and they get the bodies that they need to work with. And it just goes to show that, like, because I think there was a real mentality back in the days, like that you had to go and train, over in America if you wanted to make it kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But it's not actually the case. Like, it's the same thing with, I think it's the same thing with jiu-jitsu. Like, there's so many guys who are world-class coming out of Australia. And yeah, they might go over to the US, and I think some of it's opportunistic. If you're over there already because you're competing in something,
might as well,
you might as well get some extra training in and go visit some other places. But where were they built? Where were these athletes built? They were built here.
Yeah, I would say mostly. I think you're right. Like even like someone like Lachlan Giles, he's done bulk of his training. Even the MMA guys, like when Whitaker and like Volkanovski, they had the big fights. They all did the training here.
Yep.
They all did the training like back home in the backyard with their own coaches.
Yep.
There's no need to like find some master coach from the US or anything. Yeah, I think there is value to like understanding there is more than one way to like do the same thing. If you want to be champion, there are ways to do it locally as long as you train smart. Yeah, I think having the right people and like right support network around you, I think it's a very big possibility. Yeah.
I'm also a little bit curious, in comparison to the coaching methodology that you experienced as a student versus, what you try and give to your students here. Is that, dramatically different in any particular way? Or like, I guess, what have been the influences over the years that have sort of informed your coaching style?
Yeah, it's a good question. So when I started jiu-jitsu, it was back in the day, the old school Brazilian style, we're going to do like this position for like 100 times. I thought it wasn't very efficient, and props to my old coach, like he has changed his style over the years. So most of my teaching style, I did learn from my coach. Yeah, but then I was heavily influenced by traveling, because I used to travel to compete in Melbourne. I've competed in Singapore, went over to Japan, and then so I took a little bit from everyone, and then took the things that I like and I kind of implemented into my own style, I would say. And then obviously learning a lot from Levi, because a lot of what Levi would do was never taught in class. He would like kind of self-teach. Yeah, and of course he would go over to America. They would teach him there. He would come back. He would just practice it. So yeah, so like learning a lot from him as well, and learning a lot from like guest instructors, like people who come and do seminars. I would take things that I enjoy, like this is good. This is how the way to think about it is really really good, and then I would implement it into like my own teaching style. Yeah. And then one of the biggest influences actually was when I went over to Japan. I was there competing, just over there for the Asian Championships, whatever. And then I was just looking for a gym to go. And then my friend was like, oh, you should go to this gym. It's really cool. Another of my friend is also going. So it's called Axis Jiu Jitsu. Axis, yeah. So the guy that runs Axis is a Hickson Gracie black belt. Okay. Yeah, so it's a Hickson Gracie affiliate, to be honest, like when I was going up in Jiu-Jitsu, I always thought like Hickson Gracie was a bit overrated. Well, it almost became this like mythical creature, this like, oh, Hickson Gracie undefeated, 200 wins, 0 losses, like nobody could touch him, There would be a gym of like 50 people, everybody rolling, you would tap everyone 7 times. Yeah. But anyway, so I went to his class. Well, I just needed somewhere to train, just to move around a little bit, a bunch of Aussies were also there training. Yeah. And then the first class, he would come in. I can't remember what class it was. Can't remember if it was like fundamentals or like all levels, whatever. He would teach like a cross collar choke. I was like, oh my God. I kind of like, I came all the way here. He was going to teach a freaking cross collar choke, like from close guard. Like, what the heck? But by the end of the class, holy shit, like my mind was blown. Like the level of like detail he went into just like completely changed like how I perceived the position. So like, and then every class after that, I started to observe a little bit more, like how he would teach, how he would carry himself. So, I mean, I'm really sorry, I can't remember his name. But then, like, just the way he would teach, he would position, he would carry himself. And then, like, the way his presence was felt in the class, like, I just want to call him, like, master. He didn't even need to say, like, oh, I'm, like, professor, blah, blah, blah. I just want to call him, oh, my God, he's a jiu-jitsu master. Yeah. Yeah, it's just, like, you just know. He's never rolled. He's a little bit older. I think he's never rolled anyone. I've never watched him roll. But then like just seeing the way he describes positions, goes through how, in detail every technique is, and then like how efficient his jiu-jitsu is. I was like, man, this is like what I want to aspire to be. So, I was only there for 10 days. I've only trained with him like for 4 times, but I think that's one of the biggest influences. Really? Yeah. It is. And it's crazy.
That's interesting, especially because like, if you didn't really get to see him as a coach rolling or anything like that, but then it's just like the details that he's providing, almost like is there a point where there's a diminishing return to the level of detail, do you think?
I don't know. I think there is time for detail. I think, especially back then when you want to get, you want to be a high level competitor, that level of attention to detail is needed. Yeah, I think that's what I was searching for at the time. Yeah. But then obviously, for my students here, they just want to get movements in. They want to move around. But that's what I want to, I would say, like aspire to be. So I want to aspire to be that that person where like I don't have to roll with someone for them to know that I'm good at jiu-jitsu. I don't know. It's just like, he's a role model figure to me. Yeah. I was like, wow, one day I want to be at that level where like I don't even need to, roll, as long as I do positions, people know like this guy knows what he's talking about. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. So Japan, that was Axis Jiu Jitsu. Axis Jiu Jitsu, yeah. So I'm so sorry, I can't remember his name. Yeah. But he's a really good guy, super nice guy. But even like he was super friendly. He would like shake everyone's hand. He would look them in the eye. Just little things like that, like really, really, really go a long way. And then he was like chatting to me. He said, "Oh, you're from Australia." I was like, "Oh, I don't know any." He was just trying to relate to me. So he said, "Oh, I know like Peter DeBean from Melbourne and everything." He was just trying to relate to me in that way. Like he didn't need to. Like I was just like some dude, like one of like 20 people like visiting his gym. Yeah. Yeah. See, he didn't need to, but then he just took the time to. You know, I think it's just like how he presents himself. Yeah, and then I thought it was like amazing, like the way he like commanded his presence. Like he was really present with everyone. You know, when he corrected techniques, he was there in the class. He was involved. Yeah, I think that's what like a very big role model. Even now, like I think about it. I was like, holy shit, that was like one of the changing points in my life.
Yeah, mind blowing.
Yeah.
Out of curiosity, when it came to competing, like, did you have a very what was your mindset like? Like, did you approach competition? Were you nervous? Were you excited? Like, what was your mentally and emotionally for you? What was competition like for you?
Yeah, I think it's changed over the years, but I think back when I was a blue belt, when I was competing a lot, I felt like I had something to prove because I think coming up the ranks when you were a blue belt, I guess you wanted people to notice you. I think that was like my mindset. So I would try to compete almost every weekend. I would compete like a lot. I remember, I mean, it doesn't sound that many, but then like in a year I would compete like 13. My record was like 13 times. So almost every month I would like compete, which is quite a lot. Yeah. So I think back then I had something to prove. And then up till purple belt, I think blue and purple belt, my mindset was like I had something to prove. That's why I want to win. Yeah. But then slowly as the time has progressed, like I was thinking, rather than doing it to prove something, nowadays I compete because I want to. I wanna have fun doing it. Yeah. So I guess that's my mindset. And then competing wise, I don't know. I say I'm not a competitive person, but then once you put me in that competitive environment, I'm very competitive. It's like I can't take like I take loss as well, but then like when I'm in it, like I do everything I can to win. Yeah. So I guess that's how I approach my competition, and then I force myself to compete a lot, also in the sense that like I want to put myself out there because I felt like if I wasn't pushing myself, then I wouldn't improve. The more out of habit you get, and then the less you try to push yourself. So I would try to like push myself, like, all right, compete, especially in the bigger competitions. I would try to always do like Pan Pac, state championships, like overseas competitions. I think that's the way I would try to approach it. So I force myself I force myself to like be put out of my own comfort zone.
I think a good way to look at for people to look at competition is like it's like a mini grading. Because after every comp, your level's always going to improve because it's an opportunity to go at a different intensity that you would normally go in class.
100%,
right?
Yeah.
So I think the two ways that people can really improve at a faster rate, obviously outside of like self-study, etc., is to actually either compete or to go to visit other places and get roles in with different looks and different ideas and as you know, like every coach has a style to what they teach, and like there's a lot of common flavor in terms of like, especially like in most gyms where the white and blue belt athletes, because they go through like a fundamental style program, they all have a fairly similar sort of approach depending on what the coach has instilled. And then it's usually, when the guys get to higher levels, that they start to then like bringing in their own influences and like, watching a lot of tape and or instructionals, and then they start adding those things to their game. But then, if you either compete or you travel, you get to experience those at a different rate. Right. So, by competing so regularly, you would have had looks from all different types of jiu-jitsu, from all different practitioners, from, all the people that have flown in for Pan Pacs as an example, or even like state, and you're getting to experience different schools in across New South Wales, right? Like it's
100%. I think also another thing is like, competition is good. And of course, like rolling, cross training is also good in the sense that like it exposes your weaknesses. And then sometimes it exposes your weaknesses that you don't even know you had. Getting guillotine in 30 seconds, you're like, oh, maybe my guillotine is crap. My guillotine defense is crap. Oh, maybe your double leg is crap. That's why you get guillotine, right? So like, it's exposing like weaknesses you didn't even know you had. So I think it's good in that sense. If you can, I always like try for my students. It's still a new school. We've competed once. We're planning to compete again, like as a school. And then I always tell them like, try it. If you've never competed before, just try competition once, twice. If you don't like it, that's fine. But then give it a go. See how you feel. Like I think it's good for people to be put on the spot, because as we're adults, we kind of get comfortable. As kids, we were forced to take exams, HSC, You know, we gotta do our athletics, you know, stuff like that. But then when you're an adult, it kind of doesn't happen anymore. You kind of like just like go on with life.
Yeah, there's nothing to push you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's nothing to push you, nothing to put you on the spot. You know, the people get comfortable. So I think like, you know, having a little bit of, you know, competition, a bit of stress, you know, in your life, you know, I think it's a good thing. You know, just to push yourselves a little bit more, and then understand like, you know, win or lose, you get a good, you know, you get a good kick out of it anyway. Yeah. You always learn. You always take something out of it. You know, and then even if, you know, for example, in your first competition or whatever, you get like steamrolled for like 5 minutes under someone's mount. You know, at least, you know, you have that in you. You're like, oh, I didn't give up. I didn't like let them armbar me. Like I fought to the very end. Yeah, even that I think is like valuable. Yeah, so it's always valuable.
So then, you know, sort of switch gears a little bit. Like outside of jiu-jitsu, like what are the other things that you're into? Like what are you sort of busy with nowadays?
Well,
obviously there's a lot of things that go on here that
for
you
sure.
need to
Yeah,
be
for sure,
across,
for sure.
right?
Yeah. Before now I'm a little bit busy like doing the gym and everything. But then I used to boulder a lot. Bouldering. Yeah, I do bouldering because I really enjoy, you know, being a beginner again.
Yep.
Yeah, so I found bouldering like right before the second COVID hit.
Yep.
Yeah, so I just started with one of my friends, and then COVID hit. I was like, oh well. And then during COVID, because we couldn't do contact sports, that was one of the only things we could do. So we would just go outside, like randomly climb different rocks.
Yep.
And I find that like really refreshing for two reasons. Because, you know, whenever I go to a jiu-jitsu competition, you know, because I referee so much, like everybody, you know, wants to come up to me, say hi, which is nice. I absolutely love it, right? I love, you know, speaking to people, being in the community and everything. But then sometimes I just want my own time. Yeah, and then being in bouldering, I think it helps a lot to have my own time, because when I teach jiu-jitsu, you know, I have to interact with people, I have to teach, I have to talk to them. You know, people want to talk to me, which is nice, but then sometimes I just want to break.
Yeah.
And then when I do bouldering, it's just me and the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no one to talk to. And then it's very similar in the sense that like it's problem solving.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy the problem solving aspect of it. So yeah, but then, you know, because I've opened this gym, I have a little bit less time to do stuff that I want to do, but eventually I want to get to a point where like, you know, I can explore my hobbies again. Yeah. And then, well, I guess another thing I enjoy personally is I enjoy cooking as well.
Really?
Yeah, I find it very relaxing.
Okay.
Yeah, like cook a nice big meal, you know.
What kind of cuisine?
Yeah, I do all sorts, but mainly I do Asian.
Yep.
Yeah. So I don't know, stir fries, you know, curries, yeah, stuff like that.
Was that because like when you were at home, like back in Singapore, you wouldn't have had any exposure to cooking, right?
Oh, almost zero. Yeah, because my mom did most of the cooking. I had a domestic helper as well. So my mom, you know, mainly the domestic helper does the cooking, but then my mom, you know, jumps in sometimes. Yeah, so not really. And then my first exposure to cooking mainly by myself was out of necessity. So when I moved to Australia, I was like, holy crap, everything is crazy expensive here. I remember going to university. The first day I went to the cafe or whatever, like the food court, and then like a salad was like $12. I was like, holy crap, this is crazy. Yeah, because for comparison in Singapore, like a big bowl of noodles plus a drink will be like $5. Yeah, and then here is like insane.
But the I also feel the portion sizes are a little bit smaller in Singapore.
It is true.
Right?
It is
like
true.
I used to have this thing where it's like I need to have like 6 meals in Singapore to like get my calorie intake. I used to do stupid shit like like, you know, like you got like the MRT card, like your card, right? Yeah. And I wouldn't want to like spend too much money.
Yes.
So I would run from where I was staying, which is my auntie's house in Serangoon, all the way to Bishan.
You run there?
Run there.
What?
Yeah. That's
guys, this is why you walked home after you got left. Yeah.
So I used to run because it was just, so to put it in context, that was maybe like, I don't know, 40 minutes, maybe a
40-minute run.
Yeah, maybe 40 minutes. Like a jog. Let's say it's a jog.
Yeah, that's
right? Like I wasn't sprinting the whole time, but
that's pretty solid, man.
Yeah, but like it was like, you know, well, okay, there's probably 2 reasons for this. One is I'm a tight ass, and the second reason was probably because I didn't quite understand how to use the buses.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
So then, rather than like, you know, take the ego hit of having to ask somebody, I just run everywhere.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
So.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So. Well, that's crazy, and it's not even that expensive in Singapore. Like the public transport is like $1, like maybe like $1.50 now just to take the trains.
Yeah.
Look, you gotta save the money, man. You gotta
mentality.
Yeah.
Everything's training, man. Like that's why I used to think about everything.
Exactly. Yeah, it's toughen you up. Yeah, so yeah, I was kind of out of necessity when I moved here. Like everything was so expensive. Like I remember taking the train to university on the first day. It was like 350. I was like, holy crap, this is crazy. And in Singapore, it would be like 150, like $1.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then back then, obviously, because I was a student, and my parents they said like, you know what, don't worry about financials. Just focus on your study. We'll take care of that part. But I felt bad because like, oh, I'm Asian, right? Like we're all a little bit of a Thai loss. And then I was like, man, everything's crazy. Everything's so expensive. I felt bad. I felt bad for my parents that I'm spending so much money. Like I don't want to spend their money.
Yeah.
So I started, trying to save. And one of the first steps was like saving on food. Because food was so expensive here. Like, oh my God, like going out and having food, it was expensive. Like even like you can find like cheaper food options, but still it's like cheaper to cook. Yeah. So that's how I kind of like started, cooking and like enjoying. Was first to save money and I started enjoying it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just kept going. So
then
then
it just kept going, yeah.
did you have like, buy any recipe books or looked at like, YouTube recipes or how did you, or just internet, right?
Yeah, it's just YouTube, chef. Yeah. There's YouTube. There's YouTube everything. Then you find everything in there now.
Yeah.
Yeah, just YouTube, and I started like practicing, learning myself. And another thing that helped was one of my part-time jobs in university was to make pizza.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I was like, I did like pizza catering.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot from my cooking from there. How to prep and everything.
What do you mean pizza catering? So like pizza doing pizza at events?
Yes. Yeah. So I would go to like people's houses, like birthday parties and everything. And we would just make pizza.
Wait, how did you even get this job? Like, was this something you started, or is this something you found a job?
No, I just found it randomly. So when I moved when I was at university, so I moved to Australia in July of 2011.
Yeah.
And then like in 2 months in, like September, I was like, you know what, this is too much. Everything's too expensive. Like I feel bad. I don't want to just spend my parents' money. Some people can do that, but I can't do that. So I was like, you know what, I'll get a job. So I started looking online, and then well, because I was in university, they had like a university like job page. So one of them was to be a pizza chef. And then I guess my boss, like, because he's based in Maroubra and then the university is in Randwick. Yeah. And then Kingsford Randwick. And then I guess he advertised it there as well. Yeah. And then I found it and I asked him, and he said, yeah, just come.
What? So no, you didn't care, you didn't know how to make a pizza or anything?
Well, I called him and then he's like, oh yeah, just come in and have a look, see how it is. It's like, we don't need experience. I was like, okay, sweet. I had like zero experience. I have nothing. Okay. Yeah. And then like just started from zero.
So you just had to like start making the dough and all that sort of stuff?
Oh, no. My boss makes the dough. Okay. So we stretch out the pizza, put the topping. So but in the start I was like doing very, very basic stuff. Yeah. So I was like, put the cheese. He taught me how to put the sauce, the cheese, all the toppings, and like chuck it in. And then eventually, slowly, because I've worked there for like 8 years now. Not anymore, but like worked there for like about 8 years, like on and off. Yeah. Yeah. And then I eventually worked up to like managing my own team and everything. I was like the team manager. He would like send me out on like my own missions and everything. Yeah, my own parties. I would like manage like 2 or 3 people. Yeah, slowly worked up to that point. Yeah. But I think like it's like valuable life lessons, right? Like you learn how to I learned how to cook and I learned how to manage. Yeah.
Did you have to do all the pizza spinning and stuff? Or
we did. Yeah. Actually, there were a few points in time where I told people I'm better at making pizza than I am at jiu-jitsu. But then it's not true anymore because I haven't made pizza for a while. Yeah. Okay. But then I've continued with my jiu-jitsu. But then I tell people all the time like I'm a pizza master. Yeah. Yeah. Nobody believed me.
Wow. Okay. There you go. We'll have to have you cater something.
Next one, Johnny Yaps and pizza.
Yeah. So any other random jobs like while I'm trying to extract them out of you?
Oh. Yes. Oh well, Well, uni days, desperate international student. Well, like there is no desperation because my parents were funding most of it, but it was just me. I just felt like terrible, like taking their money. So pizza, it was mainly only on the weekends. So and then it wasn't every weekend and it wasn't both days. So we would maybe have a party on like Saturday or maybe have a party on Sunday. Sometimes we'd have both days. And then a shift would be like 7 hours. All right. So in the weekend, I would make like, I don't know, 150, 200 maybe. So it wasn't enough to like sustain my lifestyle, obviously with rent and food and everything. So I was like, you know what? I need another side hustle, like in addition to like studying and everything. So back to the uni job search. So I would be doing, what do you call it? Psychology like tests for a bit of money. So like random psychology tests. So like, oh, come in for this like psychology test. We'll pay you. It's like a paid research, and then you get like $20 for your time or something.
Okay.
Yeah. So I did a lot of those.
So what do they like? They just ask you random questions. Is it all multiple choice stuff or?
Depends. So they need people to do the research and the testing.
Yep.
Yeah. So they're like, oh, come in and we'll do this test, and then we'll assess your results, and then like it pays this amount.
Okay.
Yeah, it pays like most of them. They're like pretty quick. So I don't know, they take like 30 minutes or an hour of your time, and they pay you like $40, like $20. And it was only university. So it was all through the university like psychology sector.
Oh, wow.
So it was all in uni. I was in uni anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, oh, let's drop in, like, make a $20-40. That'll be like, lunch for like 2 days or something, That was my thought process.
Did you learn anything about yourself doing all those tests?
Not really. Oh, they told me the results, but I wasn't there for the results. I was just there for the money, to be honest. Like I did them properly. Like, sometimes we would like play little games, or like they would even like have a room of like 4 or 5 contestants. They would pit them against each other to get the results.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then it would be like a paid session. So I would like get paid to do all these things.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. So that's probably one of the more like random things I've done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Leo and I actually have this friend, Alan. I don't know if you ever met Alan, but Alan used to like do like all those medical studies.
Oh, okay.
And like, I remember asking him, like, are you worried like some shit's gonna go wrong? Like, you just
wait, he used to participate in that.
Yeah, doing like these random studies, and he was just like, it's all science. He's like a PhD kind of guy, and very ultra smart guy. Shout out to Alan. When he used to tell me, I was like, they like pay him in like gift cards or something.
Oh yeah. Sometimes they would. Yeah. They would pay like Woolies gift cards, like $40, $50. I was like, so sweet. Like I'll take them. But then that's kind of where I draw the line. Yeah. Where like there are higher paid studies. Where you have to go into a room and you have to be like a controlled environment, and like, I don't know, maybe they want to test your diet or something. So they give you all the food, but you have to stay there. So they give you a place to stay. You stay there for like, I don't know, a week or something, but they pay you like, I don't know, $700. It's like a big amount of money. But then I was like, oh, I don't know if I can give up my freedom like that. Yeah, it's a little bit like too much.
Yeah.
But
for a guy who escaped Singapore to come
exactly, yeah. But then crazy story. So there was one of the advertisements I saw like on the page. So they were paying $200. I was like, whoa, it's good money. And then all I had to do was a questionnaire and an MRI scan.
Okay.
Yeah. So and then this was like a long-term longitudinal study.
Yeah.
So it was an ongoing study to study like a bipolar disorder.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So I didn't have bipolar. I was in the control group.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would do like a quiz. It was a long quiz. It was like almost an hour, and I would do like an MRI scan, and then every year following that, they would send me a questionnaire, and then they would give me a call on the phone. They would do like a phone interview, and they would pay me $100.
Oh,
like every year, ongoing every year. I was like, this is the best thing ever. I was sign me up.
Free money.
Yeah, I was like, this is like nothing. It's like, oh, I get $100 every year. Sign me up. Crazy. And then fast forward. Crazy story, insane story. Fast forward all these years later, I met this girl online, completely random, and then we were just chatting. She's like, "Oh, she's a psychology student." So we just started chatting. I was like, "Oh yeah, I used to do psychology tests for like money and everything." And then I was part of this like bipolar study. And then she was like, "I was part of this bipolar study." And then I was like, "Wait," and then I was like, maybe I've talked to her before. Maybe she was the one that called me. Yeah. Because she was one of the people who called me on the phone. Yeah. To like do the research. And then I searched her name because I still had the emails. I searched her name of the emails, and it was her.
Wow.
Yeah. Absolutely crazy. Crazy story. And we ended up dating. Even crazier, she ended up being Leo's sister.
Holy shit. Okay.
Which is insane.
That's a story, man. Like,
yeah, I know. We kind of like figured it out. I remember she said like she did remember a guy from Singapore who gave up his whole life, quit engineering to do this like dumb jiu-jitsu thing.
She thought you were in the bipolar group.
I know, yeah, she probably did. And then I remember Vivian telling me, like many years later when we started dating, she was like, "Wow, this Singaporean guy, like, he's really given up a lot. I don't know why he would do that."
Because she can see your whole file, right?
Yeah, she know who I was. I didn't know who she was.
Wow.
Yeah, so she remembered very, very clearly this Singaporean guy. like gave up everything to do jiu-jitsu.
Holy shit.
And then she thought I was stupid. And I was like, I don't know who's stupid. Like, Vivian, you started dating me.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is actually like, you know, when they, what's the word? Serendipitous.
It is.
Yeah,
it is.
Was really that's a serendipitous moment.
Yeah, it is. And then she told me, oh, her brother does Kung Fu. And then, you know, I was talking, and then I met her brother and everything. I met Leo.
Yeah.
And then he was telling me, oh, he asked me, do you know Johnny? I was like, Johnny? Like, Johnny Yaps? He's like, yeah. I was like, yeah, I know Johnny. Yeah. So I met Johnny while he was commentating on Grapplemania.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how we met. Like, we never like formally talked before that.
Yeah. Well, I know for sure Winston's probably like, you know, refed a couple of comps that I've done.
Yeah. Sorry, I usually
but like
don't.
he would see like how many people in a day, right? Like, let's be real. If you're working, and they're long days, right? Especially if like, you know, if it's a Jiu-Jitsu or Grapplemania or Grappling Industries, it's like,
oh yeah, like proper competitions. Like we do like 8, 9 hour, 10 hour, 12-hour days.
Yeah, and then you got kids, and you got
kids. Yeah,
like even if you're just on one mat, you think a match is say 6 minutes. Let's say there's a match every 10 minutes.
Yeah,
right? That's 6 matches every hour.
Yeah,
that's 2 competitors for every match.
Yeah,
and then times that by 8 hours, 9 hours.
Yeah. And
then some of the matches, obviously, if they're subs, they might be over in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So you're chopping through them a lot faster, right?
Yes, I'm so sorry, Johnny. I don't remember you as a competitor.
No.
Yeah, but I don't remember a lot of people. Like people come up to me and say, hey, you refereed my fight. Or like, oh, you refereed my son's fight. I was like, cool, bro. I don't remember.
Cool story.
Yeah, cool story. Yeah.
Yeah, Winston would have seen, you know, thousands of competitors throughout his time. So
yeah. Too many. Yeah. But I think like it's created like a bad, not a bad thing for me, but then like it's because I referee so much. I watch so much jiu-jitsu. Like my own free time, I don't watch any jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. Like I think, you know, I can resonate with that. It's like when I was working as a mechanic, I didn't want to work on my own cars.
Is it?
Yeah. Because it's just like you work on cars all day long. Like, last thing I want to do is work on my own cars. Like, I got over it.
You just paid someone else to do it?
Yeah. Well, even now to this day, I could probably service my own cars, but I don't. I'd rather just give the money to somebody that I know.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
And pay them to work on my cars.
Yeah.
I don't want to like.
Yeah, just like just had enough of it. Yeah, it's enough of it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that is when people always ask me, or my students ask me, oh, did you watch this match? You know, this like jiu-jitsu match. You know, did you watch ADCC or did you watch like, you know, the world championships, whatever? I was like, no.
Yeah, it's hard. So it's almost too much of something you love, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's like too much. Yeah, and then like all I can digest nowadays is like the little highlight videos. I watch a highlight every now and then. Yeah. But then like I wouldn't like sit down and watch the jiu-jitsu match. I was like, nah, it's too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like way too much for me.
Yep. Yeah. Well, you're seeing it every day. You're coaching, then you're refereeing on the weekends.
Oh my god. Yeah.
It's like you need to have time away from the sport as well. Yeah. Otherwise, it's like you don't want to get well. Let me rephrase this. I think, you know, you want to have your best attitude and your most positivity at the academy, right? When you're teaching and things like that, because, you know, you're giving these people an experience when they come to learn from you as well.
Yes.
That, you know, if you were to suck the passion out of it because you're doing so many other things that are related to the sport, it becomes difficult. You need to have time away.
100%. Yeah. It keeps things fresh as well.
Yeah.
Like, you know, when you're too much in it, you just want to, it's the last thing you want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially when I come home from like a long day of refereeing, I was like, the last thing I want to do is talk about more jiu-jitsu. So I'm very, very lucky. Vivian doesn't do any jiu-jitsu at all. Yeah. Yeah. So that's a bit refreshing. So she doesn't come back like, oh, when are we going to do jiu-jitsu? Oh, can you teach me this move? I'm like, nah. Yeah. That's why I stopped dating jiu-jitsu girls.
Yeah. That would make sense.
Yeah.
I want to also switch gears and ask you about this because, in Singapore, obviously, all males have to go through what we call it's mandatory conscription. Essentially, it's called national service, right? And I was telling Winston my little story that beforehand. So I was a dual national, so to speak. My dad's still a Singaporean citizen, and then when I was in uni, I was going to do like this internship at a law firm over in Singapore. And at the time, you know, everything was all approved. So then I was like, oh, I better like, you know, apply for a visa, you know, with my Australian passport kind of a thing. And then the Singaporean government, you know, sort of wrote back. It's like, oh no, you don't need a visa. You're a Singaporean citizen. You know, you can work, blah 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 blah. And my dad was like, hey, I wouldn't exercise any rights as a Singaporean citizen because you might go away on this holiday and then they're going to take you to go do your mandatory, you know, national service, so to speak. And so then I ended up, you know, turning down the internship and just went on a holiday. And then not long after, you know, I started getting letters from the Singaporean government asking, you know, requesting me to come back for national service. So I never did it. So I need to ask Winston about his experience, going through, so did you have to do 2 years, 2.5 years?
So when I started, they reduced it to 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah. So when my brother did it, because he did it a few years, he's 4 years older than me.
Yep.
Like his was still like 2.5 years, but they reduced it. I think they were trying to cut costs.
Yep.
It is expensive for the country. But then, yeah, it's one of those things where if you're a Singaporean male, it's like looming over you. Like, it's one of those things where you want to get out of it. Like, I think if you ask every, like, I don't know, 13 or 14-year-old, like, if you want to do the army, they would say no. So nobody wants to be, like, locked up in an army camp for, like, 2 years, like, being screamed at.
Yeah.
It's nobody's dream, right? But it's one of those things where you just have to just get through with it. So, yeah. So, basically, I did enjoy my national service. It's one of those things where you can either like weasel your way out of it, like do the bare minimum, or you can get the most you can absorb from it. So to make the most of your time, I would say. Yeah. So I decided to make the most of my time. Try to do the best you can. Take it as a positive experience. It's pretty shit. Waking up at 5 a.m., getting screamed at, and then being forced to do all these things. All the regimentation was very, very strict. Yeah, it was a bit of a shock, bit of a change, but you kind of get into the routine of things. But I think, sorry.
No, I was going to say, so like the structure of it, right, is like, I think you got to do 6 months of basic military training, right?
2 to 3 months, yeah. A little bit shorter. So 2 to 3 months of basic military training, depending on your fitness level. Right, if you fail the fitness test, you have to do 3 months.
Okay.
Yeah, so the first month is just like physical training.
Yep.
Yeah, and then 2 more months of like regular basic military.
Yep.
And then
so for you, did you pass them? I'm guessing you passed. The
yeah, I passed. Yeah. Yeah. So I passed mine because I didn't want to do the extra month.
Yeah.
Yeah. So nah, I don't want to do this. I better like work on my fitness.
Yeah.
Yeah. I passed, and then
what did they make you do?
Well, back then was we had to do pull-ups. We had to do like a standing jump. We had to do a 1.5 mile run under like a certain amount of time. Yeah, I can't remember what else. Like some random, like you do sit-ups. Yeah, like you have to pass. You have to get like at least like they call it like a silver. Yeah, if you get under silver, you have to go to extra training. So I did everything I can to make sure I was silver because I didn't want the extra training because it was horrible. All you did was like wake up, go for a run, do all these things. I mean, I had friends who like went through it. And they're like, if you can, don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I did. Overall, I did enjoy like my national service. I think it's one of those things. You're like, it's pretty shit when you're there, but then you kind of get into the routine of things, and then you share a very special bond with the people you come into contact with. Yeah, because it's like a bunch of boys like having fun together. You could see it that way. Like, we're going on missions, we were firing guns, learning all these things. We were like hiding in the jungle, learning all these skills. We all figure it out together. Like none of us has any experience. None of us has any army experience. So we're all figuring it out together.
Yeah.
And like, banding together, working together, because the only way to get you through it is teamwork.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things I took away from it. Yeah. Yeah. And it really forces you to like mature very quickly. Because after you graduate from basic service, like basic military the training, right, you kind of branch out into, you start to specialize. Yeah, and then when you specialize, actually, I find it's kind of like having work experience. So you have to wake up, you have to do these things. You have like a role to fulfill, and you have to meet those requirements. Because if you don't, you get screamed at. Yeah, you get screamed at, and then they punish you. Well, they punish you by like taking your weekends away. So we are allowed to go home on the weekends. Yeah, to spend a bit of time with our family. Usually like a day and a half. We would go home on Friday evening, and we'll come back in on Sunday evening. Yeah, so we have a bit of time to have a breather and different things like that. But if you do something wrong, they will take those weekends away from you. Yeah. So we don't want that to happen. So that's why you have to like fall in line. So I think learning, it's like real work experience. There's like consequences for your actions. Yeah, and I think that really helped me, mature a lot. Yeah, and then it was a lot of like life skills that we learn, learn teamwork and everything. So actually, when I came to Australia, after my military service, the first day of university, the first week or whatever, they're like a bunch of kids. They're all like 16, 17. They just finished high school, and they have no idea what they're doing. It's just all like messing around, having parties and everything. But then for me, like I guess because I had went through like the army and I knew what I wanted to do, what I wanted to study, I was a lot more focused. Yeah, I think that really helped set me apart from the others, I guess. Yeah. It's not nothing wrong with like trying to have fun in university and everything, but I think it just puts things into perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, right? Like it's you can view it in both. Yeah, as you said, there's a duality there where you could view it as a very negative thing that you don't want to go away and do this, but on the flip side, to understand and it probably made you more grateful for some of the things that you experienced, right?
100%. Yeah. Like looking back on it, like I was grateful for like having gone through the experience. Would I do it again? Probably not. I wouldn't put anyone through it. Like it's good that people have done it.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't want, let's say for example in the future, like my own kids to do it.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't force it against them. Like if it was their choice, they wanted to do it, like sure.
Yeah.
But then I wouldn't force it upon them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think overall it is a good experience. And then, on the flip side of things, I thought like there were some of my friends who they had the opposite idea where they would do the bare minimum.
Yeah.
So all the time they would like, fake that they're sick, fake that they're injured, like, oh, do the bare minimum and do such a bad job at what they were doing that people would just give up on them. Yeah, people would say like, oh, you know what? You just here to pass the time just because it's mandatory military service. Just have to serve the time.
Yeah.
So they would do the bare minimum that people would just give up on them, and then other people have to pick up the slack. Yeah. So I think I don't know. That's not what I want to do. They do the bare minimum and they're proud of it. Yeah. I was like, and it's just a waste of time. You're just like wasting away.
Isn't that? I find that interesting because we see that in society too. There are people that. And I think it's important to sort of distinguish here because there are people that maybe don't necessarily have the same opportunities as other people, but there are definitely people who just, don't necessarily want to do as much, right? And it's an interesting one because, and I know people probably, I generally lean more towards the right in terms of my political views, just from the perspective of I think, without skin in the game, then there's no incentive to work harder.
100%, yeah.
So, if you know that somebody's going to pick up the slack for you or you don't care, right, because you just want to do the bare minimum, like like some of those guys, then, unfortunately, the rest of society has to pick it up. Like we're all paying our tax dollars and it's not always spent in the right places. Like it's interesting that you can see that in like on a smaller scale going through that process. Out of curiosity then, what after your basic military training, like what division or whatever did you go into?
Yeah, so I became a specialist, which is like a sergeant in training.
Okay.
Yeah, and then so it was like a specialist school, so it was generalized. So you go from basic military training into become like into like a specialist school. I can't remember how long it was, like maybe like 3 months or 6 months or whatever. And then from there we branched out again. So and then from there it will be the rest of the service.
Okay.
So we'll do basic military training and then specialization. Also basic military training and then like training to become like a sergeant.
Yep.
And then specialization, and that's it.
Okay.
So I got into becoming a reconnaissance. So I was a scout. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll walk like long hours, like spy on the enemy and report back. Yeah. That's basically it. Yeah. And then I was lucky enough. So even in the scout division, so it's real training. So we do get split up into like real divisions and we do like real training in the army. We never get deployed in Singapore.
Yeah.
But then, so instead of being deployed out to a reconnaissance school where like, you go out on missions, every now and then you got to like, go on missions just to make sure like you're up to date. I was actually deployed to the reconnaissance training school.
Oh.
So I was one of the instructors of the reconnaissance training school. So
Teaching people.
Yes, yeah, they're teaching people. Yeah, so the school that teaches the reconnaissance.
Yeah.
So I was part of that school. Well, it was like completely random. It's all most postings in the army in Singapore, they're all random.
But that's quite interesting because I think that in itself would have given you some insights into coaching, right?
It is, yeah. So it actually that's just probably where it started, I guess. Yeah. And then from there, well, I think back then I didn't quite enjoy teaching as much. It was just a thing that I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's just a part of my job. Yeah, but then it just happened to, give me insight into like, this is how you like, command a room, this is how like, you have to present yourself, you have to be professional, you have to be on time, you have to be like, you have to be like be one step ahead of like everyone else you're teaching. So they'll look up to you in that sense. Yeah, like little things like that. Especially for when I was a 19-year-old, it was a big thing, like stuff that I had to learn. Yeah, so I think that set the foundation of like being, I guess, where I am today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an interesting one because I think especially when you got a whole cohort of young guys that, and especially because Singapore is like quite a safe city when you think about it, right? Like they're not really going to get involved in too many conflicts and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
That, did they have methods to try and get people to try and take it a bit more seriously? Because it's like, when you're going, I would have thought, when you're going through like this military training, it's like, we're never going to get deployed. It's sort of like a bit of a joke kind of a thing. Not to say it's a joke. It's like the training is no doubt training, but like the mentality that you approach to it, it's not like you're in a wartime situation where it's like, fuck, I'm actually going to go into a war zone and I need to be able to like, I don't know, know how to use this gun, and competent in everything, right?
Yeah, you're right. Like in the sense that there's nothing at stake.
Yes.
So like, people, I guess the only reason we take it seriously is that we all just want to get through this thing. Like for most of us, we just want to like finish it. And the best way to finish it, like weirdly, sounds weirdly enough, but like you just got to conform.
Yep.
Yeah, because in the army, like if you don't conform, if you try to go against the grain, you're screwed.
Yeah.
Yeah, they really, really punish you because they want everybody to conform. Yeah, I think that's one of the things that like I was taught as well. Like, it sounds harsh, but then, after being in the army, like it really teaches you that like you're not special. Like nobody's special. Like everybody's replaceable. Nobody's special. Like of course you are special to yourself, but then like in the grand scheme of things, like you're just another brick in the wall. Yeah, in the grand like cog of society, you're just a working member. Yeah. So I think that really puts things into perspective. Like what, just got to get through it. So I think a lot of us, we just want to get through those 2 years, and we want to get through it like as smoothly as possible.
Yeah.
And the way to do it is to just put your head down, work together, and just like move forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that, no matter how hard it is, we just understand like, there's people around us, we're all in the same situation, we just want to get through it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's I guess how we took the training seriously. And of course, like, the instructors conducted it, in the way that they wanted it to. Yeah. So that also helps like, facilitate how we should react.
Yeah. So then, I guess, one other positive of probably being in Australia is you don't have to get recalled for the...
Oh, yes.
right? For all the updated trainings and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So all of my friends... So in Singapore, we have to do like 10 cycles, I think.
Yeah.
Like we have to be recalled 10 times.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've been recalled 0. Because I'm always in Australia. Yeah, so I have to... every time I have to tell the government, like, hey... I'm in Australia, you can't call me back if not I get into a Johnny situation.
That's right. I got this jiu-jitsu academy to run. You can't call me back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Man, they're brutal, man. They don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then I haven't been there for so long. Like I'm not even on the system.
Yeah.
Yeah. Usually they have if you're on the system, like they send you a letter every year or something. But because after I finished the army, I came straight here, and then I've been like, they call it deferring. I've been deferring like my callback every year. They're like, I'm just not even on the system.
Yeah. Yeah, I reckon that's probably what happened with me. Like, applying for a visa, and then it's like, I'm on the radar now.
Yeah.
I probably could have gotten away.
Yeah,
with it,
but you're safe now because I think like, once you're over 40, they're like, nah, that's it. They're useless.
Yeah. I had to renounce anyway, so.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So soon, my turn. Like once I'm 40, I'm like safe. Yeah, not quite there yet, but like I'm almost there.
So have you been back at all for like holidays and stuff?
Yes, yeah. I try to go back every year.
Oh, okay. I'm surprised they didn't try and recall you while you're back.
No, because I'm still away on record.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm allowed to like visit as long as like So I have to after my study, I have to prove that I'm working. Yeah, that's the way. Like as long as you show proof of employment overseas, you don't have to go back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had to get my the gym owner to like, hey, this guy's working for me. Like, although I kind of wasn't on the books. Like, I was a contractor, but then like I wasn't officially employed. But then it's good enough.
Before the tax man comes.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, that was back then.
Yeah.
I paid all my taxes. Yeah.
But now you'll be writing your own letters.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Winston.
No, that's true. Yeah.
He's employed.
Like, I employed myself. Yeah. This is my director. Yeah. So I have a question for you. So now it's the Winston Hong show.
Okay, yeah.
I have a question for Johnny. So now I have a client, like randomly in my gym. He just showed up with his daughter to the kids class.
Yeah.
And then he told me, oh, he used to. I asked him, oh, why do you want to put your daughter in jiu-jitsu? She's like, oh yeah, you know, she's done a few different things. She does lion dancing, she does kung fu, whatever. I was like, oh, she does kung fu. I was like, yeah, I used to do kung fu too.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, cool. Where did you used to do it? Because you know, Vivian used to tell me like Leo used to do kung fu and everything, and he said like Beecroft.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I wonder if he knows Leo.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
Bob. I know he does.
Yeah, and then I showed him the photo, and he said, oh yeah, I remember him. And then, so Bob used to he used to tell me he used to train with you guys.
Yeah.
And then what I want to verify was like Bob told me he used to beat you up. Is this true or not?
Bob used to beat me up.
Yeah, that's what he said. He's like, oh yeah, Johnny. I was like, oh Johnny, yeah, I know Johnny. I used to beat him up. I was like, yeah, I used to mess him up. He's like, oh yeah, I used to be big guy and he used to be skinny guy. I used to like mess him up. So, so the question is, Johnny, did Bob beat you up?
No, I can confirm that is false. Bob is a very strong boy though.
Yeah.
Like, so to give you some context, like I would have known Bob from like, he would have been maybe like, 10 or something when he started.
I heard, yeah, he was very, very young, yeah.
Yeah, very, very young. So I was already teaching. I was already instructing back then.
Yeah.
And so, you know.
So he didn't beat you up?
No. No, Bob's a good kid though.
He's a good guy. He's a good guy. He's a very good guy. Very supportive.
I have some funny stories about Bob actually, but I don't know if I should share one of them. I think okay. Anyway, but with Bob, you know, Bob's he was very strong, big boy, right? So definitely, you know, I think he could probably outmuscle me, right? But but training is like kung fu training is very different. Like there wasn't a lot of live stuff. Like I wouldn't say there wasn't a lot of live sparring. Like I was probably the one that probably did the most in terms of live sparring stuff. Because I was fighting pancration and doing all that stuff. But that was like, I was a bit like a lone wolf. Like, you know, people wouldn't, like my master wouldn't come with me to any of the comps or anything like that. I think there was only like one comp where I had some of my friends come. Yeah. And then that was one of Luke Pizzuti's comps. And we did combat grappling. And then like, what happened in that one? I think, I got, there was only like 4 of us in the division or something like that. And then I lost on points because I had no ground game back then.
Oh, okay,
yeah. So like I might have a grainy video of that one where it's like where I've landed a solid head kick on the guy and I've rocked him, and then like obviously he's like panicked a little and then shot and then taking me to the ground. I had no ground game.
Yeah. So what was the points like? How do you score points?
Well, so pancration is like it's like MMA.
Right.
Just no. So back combat grappling was different. Combat grappling was basically just MMA.
Right.
So
right.
pancration was basically the same as MMA, just no hits to the head.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So that particular was combat grappling because that's why I landed the head kick. And that was like the story for probably a lot of my pancration fights. Like I had no right to probably be in there doing pancration because I just didn't have any wrestling or any real ground game. But funnily enough, the first fight I had, I actually bulldog choked a guy. Oh, right. And so then like I've told this story many a time where it's like I feel like it set back my actual martial arts development about 5 years because like you always think I can win, right? And you don't never go back and actually review why did you lose. Like and I can tell you why I lost. I lost because like in my second fight after that guy, again dominant in the striking, got taken down. Had no idea on the ground, just basically got laid and preyed on for the rest of the 2 rounds or whatever. Lost that fight.
Lost my points, yeah.
That was against a kid named, I think his name was Jordan or something.
Okay.
And he was training probably MMA at the Highlands or something like that.
Yeah, right.
Good guy though, because I faced him again in another competition, and then the next time I actually had a draw against him because like I was like, you know, I guess a lot of my ground learnings were through like competition, you know, getting stuck on bottom. And then it's like, okay, I got to work out how to get better at this stuff. Yeah, right. And so then it was that, and then shout out to my other mate Dexter. He's a black belt out of now at Modern Combat Academy with Zach. But when Dexter started training jiu-jitsu, like he and I, we used to actually bust mats out in the park. And there's another guy, Jason Augustine. Jason, shout out to Jason. He was 120 kilos back then. Big boy. And me, Dex, and Jason used to like practice like, you know, jiu-jitsu. Like you used to grapple with those guys. Yeah. And so all of my like early exposure to grappling was just sparring. Like I never, even like Dave Tong, shout out to Dave and Steve, like those guys, like before I ever put on the gi, like I was probably doing like live rounds with them. I had no right to probably be in the room with those guys. Like, so shout out to another mate, Jason Tan. You know, he's a black belt now as well, but he was they used to have this crew called the Midgets crew that used to train on Sundays at Integrated Combat Center.
Yeah, right. All the little guys.
All the little guys.
Yeah.
And
so call me, man.
Yeah, well, I don't. Dave, what are you doing? Anyway, so that was when, you know, like quite a lot of them were obviously gearing up for comps and stuff.
Yeah, right.
And, you know, I was fortunate enough to be allowed in that room and basically just doing rounds.
Yeah, right. So it's just survival pretty much, because I guess you didn't have any technique, right? So what would you do? You would just survive?
And this is the interesting part about it, is that I worked out a way, you know, like I actually, you know, sort of developed my own little methodology and approach to it.
Yeah, okay.
And that's why, you know, like I did, you know, grappling industries with Dex, you know, how many times, like in the advanced division, again, no right to be there.
Yeah.
But like I
just find a way.
Yeah, like I was there because like Dex was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to compete. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll jump in with you.
Yeah.
And then funnily enough, sorry, Dex, but I did beat you like pretty much every time. so like my yardstick of progression was always like just rolling with people. And then like it would have been like when I probably around end of 2014 was when I actually started trying to do more grappling, like formal grappling, like MMA grappling, because I started working at down in Wollongong.
Yes.
And then I went to a gym down there that was a mixed martial arts gym, and I was training before work.
Yeah, right.
But I specifically wanted to focus on ground game.
Yeah.
So then I started doing a lot more ground stuff there.
Okay,
but MMA focused.
Yeah, for sure.
And then, yeah, like, and so, yeah, I think, yeah, it was actually, yeah, that was the time, because what happened was 2014 was when I got married, and it was actually at my Bucks party. The guys had organised, like, we went to some gym in Penrith, and we were like in a cage, basically bashing each other.
Yeah, right. And so wait, so they organised the cage?
Yeah.
Oh,
like, for my Bucks party.
Yeah.
For my Bucks party, yeah. So it was basically during the day, I can't remember what else we did, but like the guys that organised, like we basically, there was like 20 of us, and like we all just went down there and just like literally doing like MMA rounds with each other. Yeah. And Dex, I think he might have been a blue belt at the time.
Yeah.
And like he was the closest to submitting me. Like I think he actually locked up a triangle on me. When we were doing like the King of the Mat rounds.
Yeah.
And then like that was probably a moment where I was like, oh shit, Dex is actually getting better.
Getting pretty solid.
Yeah. So now I need to like, you know, probably do something to stay ahead of him. So then that was probably part of my goal, was to just stay ahead of him.
That's it, yeah.
And so then, yeah, like started doing a lot of MMA grappling, and then it was only like, you know, 2019, I'm guessing, maybe 2019 or 2018 maybe, where I started like doing a lot of live rounds with Dave.
Yeah.
Johnny Newen from Bankstown, Black Belt out of Bankstown. Who else used to come to that? Felix used to come to that. I think Felix was one.
Oh man, Felix is the demon, man.
Yeah.
Like him and I, like we kind of like came up together at the same time. So I used to watch him compete a lot.
Yep.
Yeah, because he's always one division above me. I was always very, very glad that like I never had to fight Felix, because fuck man, he's very good. Like he's still I'm sure he's still very good now. Yeah. But like man, I remember back then he was like one of the weapons.
Well, it was like, I think him and Levi were like neck and neck back then, right? And then Levi went away.
So, yeah.
That was when Levi had this massive growth spurt in terms of his progression, right?
It is. Yeah.
So yeah, that was like basically the, you know, my sort of jiu-jitsu journey. And then obviously, you know, Dave then encouraged me. He's like, Johnny, you're here rolling on Sunday. Like, why don't you actually like come and like do some actual jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, right. So he invited you to a jiu-jitsu class.
Yeah, and so then that's the first time I put on the gi.
Yeah.
And then
that's fair enough.
Yeah. So obviously.
And now he's a gi guy.
No, fuck no. Like I turn up today at Winston's, and Winston's like, oh, you actually have a belt, and I'm like, yeah.
I was like, I'm so shocked he's a purple belt. I was like, wow, I didn't know this.
Yeah, Keller and Janice gave me like this pity purple belt. Nah, they
from Janice, definitely pity belt.
it was just one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, you know, they're like, oh no, you got the skills. It's just,
yeah, for sure. Just didn't put
like,
in the time.
I'm bouncing around everywhere, so it's like very hard to get.
But look, you have put in the time. It's just like at different places, right?
Yeah. So that's so in terms of Bob, right? So Bob, still a very strong boy. I'm sure he's probably still like, he was always very solid.
Oh, he's like 90 kilos now. Yeah. He's a big strong boy. Yeah. But he said that he had an accident or something. He couldn't train jiu-jitsu. Yeah, he had a really bad like car accident, motorbike accident. Like he couldn't train jiu-jitsu for like a long time. He said he tried actually one class.
Yep.
And he said the next day like his knee was really, really hurting. So he wanted to do it, but he couldn't.
But it's good he's got his daughter in it.
He does, he does. His daughter is very, very good.
Yeah.
And she does she's like probably like a little Bob, probably like she does kung fu, she does lion dance.
Yep.
Yeah, she does jiu-jitsu.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's got her doing everything.
Yeah,
it's
and
good.
she's very very, very talented and very focused.
Yep.
So it's good, yeah.
Oh, so we'll see her on. You can pushing her to competitions.
Maybe soon. Yeah, maybe soon. See how she goes. Yeah, she might be a little bit afraid, but I'm sure Bob would like love it if she competed. Like, he would be like fully supportive. He's a good guy. Yeah, he would be like fully supportive. Yeah, and I hope so.
Yep.
Yeah. I hope she would. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, Winston, you're still the host at the moment. Is there anything else you want to ask?
No. I'm good. I'll hand it back. Like, I stick to the jiu-jitsu part. I leave the talking to Johnny.
All right. Well, if people want to find you, obviously, how do they find you? So give your socials a plug. Obviously, the gyms.
Yeah. So my gym is just Ace Academy _J_. So you can find me on like Instagram. I'm mainly on Instagram. Like, nobody really uses Facebook anymore. But I'm on Facebook as well. But like, if you wanna shoot me a message or you wanna like just have a chat or something, you can find me on my gym. My personal page is just what is it? Winston HBJJ. I think that's it. Yeah. So yeah, if you wanna check out my stuff, that's where it is. So come visit me. Anyone's welcome to come. There's no uniform policy or anything. You can wear whatever you want. Actually, it's funny because I told my students the other day, because they asked me, "Oh, do you mind if like we wear like stuff from my old gym?" I was like, "No, I actually love it." Because advertising for me. People think wearing someone else's gym is advertising their gym, but no, it's advertising for me.
Yeah, because you're here.
Exactly. Like, if you have a gym for another patch, like, hey, well, why is this guy always here? Like, why is he always like wearing someone else's patch? Like, but in this gym, I think it's advertising for me. Yeah. That's why I was like, oh, just wear whatever you want.
Yeah.
But I wish some days they wouldn't wear their other gyms. Like, let's say like we have a photo shoot or whatever, we want to make a nice photo. I wish they wouldn't wear like their whole gym's stuff.
That's when you just got to send the group message and say,
exactly.
Hey guys,
Yeah.
I got photographers coming in.
Yeah. But then otherwise, like, just wear whatever you want. Yeah. So anyway, sorry guys, rambling on a little bit, but come visit me. We have gi, no gi, whatever you like. Open mats, nice cool vibe.
Yep.
Kids,
adults.
Kids, adult, everything. When Leichhardt, it's pretty central, right? When in the west, so it's like 10 minutes, 15 minutes away from the city. It's not too far. It's a bit far from the west, but like we're a bit closer. We're pretty central. Yeah. So everyone's welcome to come.
All right. Thanks everyone.